Namaste and welcome to Live, Love, Engage. I am your host, Gloria Grace Rand, and today I am delighted to have a gentleman with us who is going to be talking about all things marketing and more beyond marketing, really. But I'll explain more in a moment. But first off, I want to welcome Colin Scotland, who is joining us all the way from England today. So welcome.
Hi, Gloria. Thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be here.
It is lovely to have you. I've been was introduced to you and really love your mission, which I'm going to actually share with our listeners as well as our viewers on YouTube today. So you are on a mission to actually extinguish the myths about marketing, and he runs a marketing coaching business, marketing incubator masterminds, and the Awaken Creator program, and he helps mission-driven entrepreneurs find their spark and never let it go so they can actually fulfill their potential and change lives doing what they love, which is a really good thing to do, isn't it? I mean, I think there's some entrepreneurs that go into business just to make money, but I love working with people who really are more sort of purpose driven and really are wanting to, I guess, change the world, I guess, as well and make some money doing it at the same time. So let's start off by letting our listeners and viewers know, how did you get started in doing this type of work?
Oh, do you want the long version or the short version, Gloria?
Let's see. How about the medium version? Try
Because
that.
it's 46 years in the making, right? The short version, the short to medium version, I always, my father was a market trader in Liverpool, and I grew up on the market stall with my dad, right? So we were always be buying and selling things and doing the kind of traditional entrepreneurial type stuff.
Mm,
I loved seeing how a market trader gets people's attention and then kind of talks and persuades and communicates with people walking by, right? That
mm.
fascinated me. In the old days in Liverpool on the markets, you would have these guys that did what were called demonstrations. So, these like product peelers
Oh
and
yeah,
things like that, where you see
absolutely. Yeah,
these adverts now on these
right.
adverts online. It was
Yeah.
that, but done in live, right? So these
Right.
guys would have such a patter, such a really
Yes.
really interesting way of grabbing people's attention. They'd have
Hmm.
crowds of people around them, and so from an early age, I've always been fascinated by that kind of stuff. Anyway, fast forward 20 odd years, I did a degree, a master's degree, and I started a PhD in consumer behavior and communications.
Oh wow.
And at that point, I started an online business myself, and it blew up. It went crazy bananas, crazy busy, and I
Mm,
ended up ditching the PhD and focusing and chasing money.
mm.
Right. So you just
Yeah.
mentioned about people driven by money. That
Yeah.
was me.
Mm.
I was relatively successful. We got to £4 million
Hmm.
sterling a year turn revenue, which is about, I don't know, what, $6 million a year.
Yeah.
So it was a nice business. It was doing well, and it went bust in 2013, and I lost everything that I had in the world. Right,
Oh, man.
materially everything I had in the
Right.
world, and in the aftermath of that, I kind of realized that I hated it. I missed
Mm,
time with my kids.
mm,
I drank too much. I worked too much, and I
mm.
wasn't happy. I had a lot of money, but I wasn't actually happy.
Yeah.
In the aftermath, I really did a lot of soul searching to uncover what's actually important to me, and I realized it wasn't money. I I've been a martial artist. A lot of people don't know that about me. A martial artist for many years, taught jujitsu, right? And one of the things that lights me up is seeing a person grasp something for the first time and seeing a light in their eyes when they kind of go, and they get it and they understand, and I can feel it. I can feel a change in them
Mm-hmm.
as people. And so I kind of had an epiphany moment at one point in the aftermath of that business loss, where I thought, wouldn't it be amazing if I could create a business where all I get to do is have conversations with wonderful people and
Mm.
help them to find and experience that light? And that was in 2013.
Mm.
And from that, here I am today. That has been my guiding light through everything that I've done since and continue to do today.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I and we were talking before we even got started too, that I think it's important for people to understand about business. Like you said, you really realized that it wasn't all about money. It was more about, you wanted to really find something that was fulfilling. And how does that, translate into marketing? Because I think some of the maybe even some misconceptions that especially maybe business owners when they're first getting started have about their message, and that they really have to focus in on sales, but there's more to it than that. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Because if you think about it, people buy from people, and they buy from people that they know, that they like, and
Right.
that they trust. People where there's a relationship.
Yep.
And so oftentimes, and listen, I'm a marketer and I'm guilty of this. We go through kind of saying the things that people expect you to say,
Yeah.
trying to be the person that you think other people expect you to be,
Hmm.
and doing the things that you feel are expected of you. So what that does is it puts layers on top of who you truly are, right? It
Right.
puts a mask in front of you, and it builds layer upon layer upon layer, so that you're very much obscured in your marketing message. We don't see you.
Yeah.
Your mission in life is to be the truest expression of you. And so if we put layers on, and we put layer upon layer upon layer of what we say in the world and how we show up, how is that the truest expression of us? That's the surest imitation of others, not the truest expression of ourselves.
Hmm.
And listen, after I had that epiphany, this has been a long, and still is a long road. I've not mastered anything by any stretch. I'm still as much a student of life today as I was when I first started. And
Yeah.
so one of the things I realized after a lot of error and struggle and strife was that actually I'm trying to talk about marketing in the way that that guy does, or that girl does, and the
Hmm.
way that I've read in this book. And I'm not expressing what I feel and know to be true about marketing. And that is, people connect with people, and it's all about the relationship. So how can we create relationships if we hide behind masks?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that's what kind of led me to this, being the truest version of you in what and how you show up.
Hmm. Yeah, it's so important, and it's interesting. I was just on a, I connected with someone the other day on Instagram, and so she sent me a message saying, "Oh, thank you for following me," and you know, have you ever? She immediately got into like, "Have you ever thought about doing courses for your business?" Because that's what she does. And I'm
Hmm.
like, so I knew right away kind of where this was going. And I'm like, I just played along and said, no, I haven't, and then she then replies back with, oh, what would you, can you imagine what your life would be like, if your business was perfect and, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, this is a question that I would have with someone on a discovery call.
Mm.
I've never met this person in person. Well, I mean, I've only just connected with her on social media ever so briefly. We haven't even had a real discussion. She's already launching into this automatic spiel because she wants to be able to get clients. Have you experienced that? And have you talked about that even with your clients, or what would you say to someone who does that?
So I'm kind of I consider myself an anti-marketer,
Yeah.
right? An anti-marketer, and my clients typically hate marketing, and they come to me and they say, "I don't do marketing. I'm not a marketer. I hate sales.
Yeah.
The thought of sales makes me feel a little bit sick in my stomach."
Right.
And that is me. That is me,
Yeah.
Gloria,
Yeah.
all through and through, right? That
Yeah.
is who I am. I've just obviously I have a fascination with the psychology, the persuasion, and all of those
Sure.
things.
Yeah.
And so I've done my 10,000 hours in that space, but
Yeah.
I hate all of that stuff. I hate it with a passion. And so the thing is, if you think about it, if I if I show up and I truly want to serve you and be of service to you,
Right.
then the last thing I'm thinking about is how can I get the sale from
Yeah.
you?
Hmm.
That's the last thing on my mind. And in situations like you've just described, it's the first thing on their mind,
I
isn't it?
know.
They
Yeah,
might have this, they
absolutely.
might have this layer, this mask of, oh, imagine if you had this, and what would life be like for you if
Yeah.
you were to reach this summit of the mountain, you know? And
Right.
then straight away, bang, have you thought about what I do? Have you thought
Hmm.
about me? And then
Right.
it's all
Yeah,
about me again, isn't it?
it
Instantly.
is. Yeah. Yeah, so I just decided to unfollow her because it was like I could go into a dissertation and reply back, and I'm like, you know what, this is the way either she's been trained, or whatever, but um, it's probably just going to fall on deaf ears. And I said it's not worth my emotions to get upset about it, and just say, okay, God bless you, and I'll just not engage with you again
Exactly,
because
and
yeah,
that's your choice, right?
yeah,
That's your choice.
yeah,
But I mean, the thing is, it's just about there's no real that there's no real secret to this. It's just about how you show up.
hmm
And I use this analogy with my clients, right? It's a bit like if you next time you're looking at yourself in the mirror, make a frowny face at yourself in the mirror, like furrow your brow and
right.
ruffle your face up and look at what the reflection does back at you,
Mm,
and then make a smiley face and watch what the reflection does back at you.
yeah.
And the thing is, your marketing is driven by how you show up and what face you make in the mirror.
Mm,
If we make a smiley face, the reflection can but only smile back.
mhm.
It can't be any other way.
Yeah.
And so this is how you show up in what you say, what you do, how you share what you do
Mhm.
with the world. You show up in from this place of abundance, of connectedness, of wanting the best for the people around you, of the
Right.
greater good.
Yeah.
And when you do that, that is the universal equivalent of smiling in the mirror,
Mhm.
and only good things come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you 100% because that's you want to we gravitate naturally to people who are smiling and who are friendly, and if your message comes across that way as being, coming from a place of how can I serve you? How can I help you get and it goes back to even I don't know if you've heard of Zig Ziglar at all, but
Mhm.
he also say, give enough people what they want and then you're going to get what you want. But it's really about thinking about them first, not you.
And I think the challenge in that, you're so right there, but the challenge in that, Gloria, is actually doing it. And
Yeah.
I've been somebody who's been on my knees, right, unable to put food on the table and pay the bills,
Mm,
worried about losing my house, right, when the business
yeah.
went bust. And so I appreciate, as well as most, that there are practicalities to this. So
Yeah.
as much as you want to live your dream, fulfill your purpose, and all of those things, you've got to clothe and feed your kids. You've got to
Mhm.
you've got to
Yeah.
eat and have a place to sleep and all of these
Right.
things, right? So we're constantly balancing, don't you find this kind of, oh, the scarcity element of fear of needing
Right.
to do stuff with the higher purpose stuff. And
Yeah.
so there's almost like a little battle going on, don't you find?
Oh, yeah, definitely. But I do think if you can still stay on the side of being of service and trusting that it will pay off, but also taking the action that you need to take, because you can't just sit down and just hope that people will come knocking on your door. You do have to do some of those marketing things that you may not necessarily like to do, like, send out an email or post on social media occasionally, or do a video or something. You do still have to put yourself out there, but put yourself out there from a place of being of service and do it consistently. I think too. Um,
Definitely, definitely, and it has to be real because
yeah.
people know when you're being fake a mile away, right? People
Hmm.
can smell it, they can sense it, they can feel it.
Hmm.
So the whole thing about being authentic, it's really about uncovering what that truth is for you, and then doing that in a way that is genuinely there for the purposes of others. So it's a purpose outside of ourselves. Viktor Frankl in
Hmm.
My Search for Meaning talks about uh, defining purpose as a purpose outside of ourselves.
Hmm.
And we're able to connect to something bigger than us and realize that life, the universe, is bigger than us, and get outside of ourselves in that, it allows us to tap in to that true authenticity. And it's
Hmm.
when that's present that the magic happens. And yes, you know, you still have to send emails, you still show up on social media or write blog posts on your website and make
Yeah.
videos and record podcasts, but
Right.
you're doing it from a place of higher purpose, of higher
Mhm.
calling. That's what it's all about, isn't it? That is
Yeah.
being authentic. That's what that means, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say for those of you listening and watching, that one of the things I've learned is not to force it, because sometimes if you are trying, really hard to get something done, that is when it does come out. It's harder to be your authentic self. So I have found that in those situations, it's much better to just take a break for a little bit, maybe go for a walk or something, and just rather see if you can get inspired and to be in a happier place in a sense, to be able to then do that work. Because when I'm coming from a place of just like, all of a sudden inspiration hits, it's like, oh, let me start writing now, because it comes much easier than when I'm like, oh God, I've got to do this. And then it's like pulling teeth. Yeah.
Such a powerful lesson in that. But it is hard to do, isn't it? One of
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
coaches said to me, Colin, I want you to take Fridays off. And I nearly fell through the floor, right? We negotiated down to half a day, not a full day.
Yeah.
And was walking the dog, throwing the ball for the dog on the field. And I had a headache with the stress. My brain was telling me, you need to be doing this. You've not done that. You need to do that. But what a wonderful, refreshing change of state it was.
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, you then come back having processed, able to be far more productive and get much
Yeah.
more done.
Yeah,
Having it,
absolutely.
don't you?
Yeah, for sure. Um, in all of your experience that you've had, and now in doing all the work that you've had, what's and you just mentioned that you have like had a coach in the past as well. I don't know, maybe you're still working with a coach, but what's the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice I've ever received didn't come from one of my coaches. It came from a guy when I was about 15 years old
Mm.
who was quite influential on me. And he said, Colin, life isn't a rehearsal. You don't get to go back and do it again.
Mm.
And it's not the most profound piece of advice that I've ever heard. I've heard far more profound work, but it's been the one thing in my life that's really stuck with me. So
Mm.
then when I've been faced with a choice of, do I do this or do I do that? Do I do this or do I do that? It's really always caused me to come back to, what am I hoping to get out of my life, and what do I feel called to do in my life?
Mm.
And then using that as the thing that spurs me in to the thing that I know I really should do, but I maybe don't feel like doing,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So it's been that, Gloria.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and it is so true. And what goes along with it, I think, as well, is that life is short and you never know when something's going to happen. So if you want to achieve something, there's no time like the present to start working towards that. And because you don't know what's going to happen, it's important to pay attention to that.
It's no wonder, is it, that people have these epiphanies and life-changing moments. For me, it was when my business went bust. That was when my world got shook upside down. For others, it might be a death, it might be a redundancy, it might
Mhm.
be an illness, it can be all manner of things, but typically it's things that turn our world upside down.
Mhm.
And I remember reading one of my favorite all-time books, Stephen Covey's Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
Reading in that book when he talks about, imagine you've only got 3 months left on the earth, right? And you
Mhm.
you know that date is imminent. It's only 12
Yeah.
weeks away. That's
Yeah.
not long.
No.
How would that change how you turned up today and what you did with your
Mhm.
hour, your time, your minutes? Every
Mhm.
second would all of a sudden become so much more precious to you, wouldn't it?
Mhm. Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking about it right now, imagining. I was like, yeah, it
Yeah,
just really changes things. And
it
but if
does.
we
But
can think that way all the
oh,
time,
yeah, absolutely. And we should,
yeah,
and I don't. I have to keep
I
reminding
know,
myself. Just saying it to you now is
I
a
know, it's
reminder
hard.
to me.
Yeah.
I wish I did. I wish I did. But then think about it. If we're able to go to say no to the things that aren't serving us, then
Mhm.
we're saying yes to the infinite possibilities that could or can and will. Oh, how powerful is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, gonna I want to ask you, what's the favorite part of what you do? What brings you the most joy in what you do every day?
So for me, it's that light.
Mm,
It's that seeing that light in people's eyes,
mm,
and feeling like I've played some part in allowing them to realize that they've got a bright shining sun inside of them, you
mm.
know,
Yeah.
and then feeling that feeling of of joy that lights me up. The fact that I get to have these exciting, wonderful conversations every day,
Hmm.
genuinely, I I feel so blessed and grateful for that.
Mm.
And then when people realize, I can be that, I can do that, I am that.
Yeah.
Wow, their world changes.
Hmm.
World changes. What greater gift is there than to give people that, you
Yeah.
know?
That's for sure.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's what lights me up.
Awesome.
That's what lights me up.
And isn't it wonderful when you can actually do what lights you up, and then you actually can put food on the table and you can keep a roof over your head too. It's a wonderful combination. So
Well, this is the paradox, right? I spent the first probably 3 years after my business went doing the things that I thought a marketing consultant would do. I wasn't really, I didn't consider myself a coach at the time. It was
mhm.
more of a, like a marketing consultant, right? And I did all of the things that I thought would be expected of a marketing consultant. I wore a nice suit and looked very smart and all of these things, and said the things that I thought people wanted to hear about
Mhm.
earning more money and doubling your business and doing all of these things, right? And then, and actually, it was when I was brave enough, I wouldn't even say about the fact that my business went bust, because I
Mhm.
was ashamed and embarrassed. I
Mm.
felt like a complete failure,
Yeah.
right? But when
Mhm.
I was able to own who I am, my journey, warts and all,
Yeah.
that was when things changed, because I was no longer hiding behind those layers that we talked about, and
Hmm.
I was expressing me and
Yeah.
the vulnerable little boy inside of me that's going, Colin, who do you think you are? You know, that little voice that we've all got
Absolutely.
inside
Oh
of us.
yeah. Yes.
Yeah. But when I'm able to kind of still show up anyway, because I
Mm.
know I really feel, I feel compelled. It's not a rehearsal. I've got this chance to
Yeah.
help, to serve, to be of service, to make a difference in people's lives with what I do.
Hmm.
So I have to show up and do that. And when I was able to do it without that mask, or I say without the mask, we're always peeling it back, aren't we? We're
Yeah.
always like chipping away at that thing. But the more I was able to be the expression of what I thought it was, that
Yeah.
was when things changed. So it's finding what that voice is for you. That's the critical part.
Hmm.
It's okay that it changes. It's okay that that voice today is different to the voice that was yesterday,
Yeah.
you know, because we change and evolve. It's a part of life, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm.
Um, yeah, because I'm definitely not doing the same things in the same way that I've done in the past. And I think it's great that you were able to let your vulnerability show about the problems you have, because I think that also does help other people then to say, oh, well, if he was able to get past that, then maybe there's some hope for me. And so it's good to be able to let people know that we're not all perfect. We all have our own things that happen, and that's what makes us who we are today. And as hopefully we learn and we grow from that, and that's what life is all about, is just continuing to do that, because we're always going to have stuff come up, and we just have to learn to deal with it and keep on going.
Mm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said.
Well, I have really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm sure that there are some folks out there who also enjoyed it and would love to learn more about you. So, how can they do that? Where's the best place to get information on what
Wonderful.
you do,
Yes.
who you are?
So you can find out more about me on my website, colinscotland.com. All of tons of free resources around how to show up in the world of marketing and business in an authentic way, like we've spoke about today.
Okay, awesome. Well, I will have that in the show notes for everyone to be able to connect with you as well. And yeah, thank you again for being here today. I really enjoyed our conversation, and it's refreshing to talk with someone like yourself who, yeah, has been around the block and knows that it's really about speaking from the heart, and that is speaking or marketing, and that's how we can do business better. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's been lovely.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening and for watching on YouTube. I appreciate all of you, and appreciate the reviews and things that I get. I love reading them. So thanks for the positive comments. And until next time, as always, I encourage you to go out and live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically.